Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. It is the second hour. We want to focus on the state of the nation. Continue talking to us on our social media platforms at KBC Channel 1 and at Abdiaziz Hashim 2. As I told you, we'll be focusing on the reconstitution of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, which is the IEBC, as well as what the control of budget clearly stated yesterday in terms of the bursaries, clearly telling the governors that that is a national government responsibility, not the responsibility of the county heads, which of course that left a bitter aftertaste in the mouths of the county heads who gave the presser at Delta House, and also in regards to the striking clinical officers. Of course, that is a matter we'll not discuss today. And then finally, of course, what happened yesterday at Capitol Hill in the United States of America, where Donald Trump came back as the 47th United States of America president. Of course, what will it look like for the African continent? He has been there as the 45th president. How was his relation with the African continent? And off the back from President William Ruto visiting that particular country in terms of creating relationship and bolstering that relationship we have had with the United States, of course, under a different president, that was Joe Biden. Now, joining me this morning will be Edward Waswa, an advocate of the High Court. Edward, good morning and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
And of course, we'll have now a new face, I should say. Opondo, she is a legal advisor and global health head for Women Achievers Africa. Have I said it correctly?
You've said it correctly.
Thank you so much. And of course, a familiar face here is Sammy Meli, a governance expert. Let me start with you, Sammy. In terms of the reconstitution of IEBC, this is not the first time we've spoken about it. This is the umpteenth time we're talking about it. Yesterday, the reason why I'm asking you that particular question is that the LSK president, of course, your president, clearly gave out some of the issues. And she's saying we're risking a breach of a crucial electoral timelines in the country. We have not done the boundaries delimitation. Constituencies, some in the country, do not have legal representatives, including even members of the county assembly. So are we facing a crisis in this country?
Good morning, Hashim. I think we are actually facing a crisis. 2027 is just around the corner. The IEBC needs to have been constituted as soon as yesterday. The court cases, for example, the one that was launched by Wiper is still also in the process. And therefore, I think we are facing constitutional timelines, remembering that there are people who went into election and then they lost their member of parliament. They went into election. There are election disputes that perhaps emerged. There are also wards that don't have representation at the moment. I can recall there are around 4 constituencies that don't have a representation in parliament, and the years are running out. The term limit for the term for this August House is also coming to a close. Yet there are Kenyans out there who do not have representation. There are also delimitation of boundaries, constituency boundaries, that needs to have been done before the next election. And I'm facing a situation whereby the constitution of IEBC will be done hurriedly, and then the delimitation of boundaries. Remember, there is public participation in also those delimitation of those boundaries. There could be ensuing court cases coming from the boundaries, and this needs to be done in a speedy way at the moment. And I say most of the time, litigation is not the way to go if people can sit down and agree and say and withdraw those cases, because the case in court is also stopping some serious issues from being handled at the moment. I think as a Kenyans, we need to determine how we need to go about, especially when it comes to constitutional offices that need to be constituted in good time so that we can have elections. Remember, at the same time, there needs to be some purchases that need to be made in preparation for the next elections. There is a budgeting process for the next elections also that needs to be done. And without the commissioners in place, we would face a crisis. And at the end of the day, if this is done hurriedly and with little consultation, we might have a crisis also after elections where people will say this was not done at the right time, this was not done at the right time, this, there is, for example, partialism in the appointment. And remember, since the appointment of the few that were appointed, and then there's this party that went to court, it becomes an issue, a thorn in the flesh of this country, because every other time we have things being, we have a back and forth way of doing things. And I think now when we have a broad-based government, I think the president and the leaders of opposition should come together and agree, because right now we have less than 3 years into the next election. Otherwise, election issues are emotive in this country. Election issues are dear to most Kenyans. And now we have a diverted attention. We are dealing with other things, yet we have a very important body called IEBC that needs to be constituted as soon as possible.
Okay. Let me head over to Wakili now. Wakili, we have even seen your president urging even the judiciary to expedite all cases when it comes to the reconstitution of the electoral body. So is this possible, and how, as the judiciary expedite all those cases, what will it mean? Are they, for lack of a better word, kuachilia your kesi, ama what is going to happen?
Well, thank you very much for having me. You know, when you're talking about requesting the judiciary to expedite matters, doesn't mean that a certain party will be prejudiced by that decision. The question or the idea behind it is to make sure that we do not fall into a constitutional crisis. Because as my brother has rightfully pointed out.
Okay, give me a minute. Of course, I'll be coming back to Wakili. Right. We're receiving, of course, a live link from our very own Simon Achola, who's following President William Ruto during his Western tour. Simon, good morning. What can you tell us about the President's diary? Where is he expected to be today? And what are certain activities that the head of state is expected to take over today? Well, of course, we'll be heading over to Simon as and when we get them. Continue, Waswa Wakili, before I head over to Simon Achola. I do hear now we do have Simon Achola. Simon, good morning. If you can hear me, what can you tell us about the President's diary today?
Well, thank you very much, Hashim. Indeed, we are in Kakamega County, and we are keeping tabs on exactly what is going on here in Kakamega County. And the President has actually, the President commenced his Western region tour on Sunday when he went to Cheptais for a church meeting. And then, of course, yesterday he was in Mumias, that is in Kakamega County, for that historic function where, of course, for the very first time in this country, Ken farmers were actually getting bonuses from out of their toil in terms of supply of cane to Mumias Sugar Factory. Today, Hashim, what will be happening is that the President, currently, as we speak, he's actually at Kakamega State Lodge. What is happening is that he's actually having a cabinet meeting, and then from there, he will be heading to Shinyalu to launch last mile connectivity, that is an electricity program, of course, targeting to ensure that each and every household in this country can actually access electricity. But just to give you a brief of exactly what has been on the forefront of some of the things that we've actually picked out from the tour so far, is that the President has been bigger on one agriculture, and we saw what exactly happened yesterday. Yesterday, the government, of course, dished out 150 million to cane farmers in Mumias Sugar Factory. And of course, these are bonuses derived from what the cane farmers had actually supplied to Mumias Sugar Factory. And of course, the President and other leaders who actually there, including the leader of Majority, Kimani Ichung'wah, made it very clear that indeed this money is not coming from the exchequer as had been purported by other leaders. But he said this is indeed the effort and toil of the investors who have actually invested in Mumias Sugar Factory. And he says that the procedure or the trend will continue to ensure that also farmers who are actually supplying their cane in Nzoia, farmers who are supplying their cane in Muhoroni, Chemelil, and Sony Sugar also get bonuses. This was the first of its kind in the country. And of course, everyone hopes that indeed this is going to continue, so that then cane farmers can actually join the League of Tea Farmers, Coffee Farmers, and other farmers in the country in terms of getting bonuses. Today, of course, as I've said, he is in State Lodge, and of course from there he'll be heading to Shinyalo. But tomorrow, Hashim, he'll also be again big on agriculture, where he's expected to go to Lower Nzoia, Lower River Nzoia rice irrigation scheme. And here, just to put into perspective, is that they've actually expanded that irrigation scheme to 10,000 acres. That in essentially means, of course, more arable land, and of course more land under irrigation, as the government has actually wanted, and also just to ensure that indeed there's more rice harvest in that region. So the government will actually be touring that project, just to ensure that indeed to get to beats in terms of what is happening in that region. And then from there, of course, there are a number of activities he'll actually also be launching in Busia County, and of course he'll also be coming back to Kakamega County and Vihiga County. On Wednesday, as I've said, on Thursday, he'll be in Busia County, where he's expected to go to launch the Alupe Dam. And of course, also that also goes towards ensuring that, of course, more and more farms can actually be put under irrigation. And the other thing is that he'll also be launching last mile connectivity and very many other issues. Lastly, before you ask me a question, Hashim, the other thing that has actually come out prominently also from this tour has
Okay, we apologize for that. Of course, that is our very own Simon Achola, just keeping tabs on the president's tour in Western Kenya. Of course, my question to him would have been the succession we have seen of 2027 politics, which has also been very dominant with the president and his various foot soldiers who have been able to go to the western part of the country, aside from the agenda or the plan the government seeks to implement when it comes to the affordable housing project, the agriculture and the last mile connectivity. We'll be getting back to Simon Achola as and when we get more. But Wakili, we were talking about in terms of the procedure that will see the courts to expedite some of these cases in regards to the reconstitution of IEBC.
Thank you. As I was saying, the idea behind expediting these cases is not meant to maybe to prejudice any party to that suit. The courts have that mandate to make sure that they do not take a country to something we called constitutional crisis. And we all know that at the moment we don't have time for these cases and approving the panel appointing commissioners. I remember there's a back and forth, as my brother said, back and forth. Some people will not be comfortable with certain candidates, so there will be a lot of matters. So the idea around expert those cases is just to make sure that we don't fall into that trap. And it is not something illegal. It is a prerogative of the Chief Justice to make sure that as the head of the judiciary, she does not take the country to that route. So it's not a question of, to actually a case, not at all. It's just making sure that matters have been done on time to make sure that the country is safe. We've seen such matters happening. This was the first time. We've seen, you remember, anytime we always have these political parties disputes, the Chief Justice always gazettes timelines to make sure that they are cleared on time so that the country can kick off its agenda on time. We cannot be in courts fighting over, I lost this vote or you stole my vote. The entire 5 years, there must be a timeline to allow the country to perform. So it's not about anything to do with prejudicing any party, but just to make sure that a country moves on. So it is purely legal. is not something illegal that you saw our president trying to advocate. And we must applaud our president. She has really, no, our president, the LSK president, the Law Society president, she has really...
You should be very categorical.
Yes.
Which president you're talking about, because there are so many presidents in this country.
Yes, I'm first of all loyal to my president of LSK, then to His Excellency William Ruto. So she has done tremendous work as far as keeping the constitution alive is concerned. Yes.
And of course, to Mildred, in terms of ensuring that at the end of the day, we do not witness tedious litigation after an election, is this a recipe for one?
I would say it's a recipe for one, because I'm seeing like the timeline might be short because the numerous cases that are pending in court, and I'm seeing that there has been calls for these things to happen. And there has been also laxity on the part of the judiciary. I don't know whether it's part of the judiciary itself or there's a bigger person behind the judiciary. Because if this don't happen within time, then it means that it will be happening hurriedly. And when it happens hurriedly, it means that by the end of the day, the people who will not get justice, because we are going with time and we want to finish very fast because there's another election that is coming in. Yes.
And of course, Sami, this is not the first time in the country we are finding ourselves here. Why do we always like to ensure that we hurry everything at the end of the time, given that we are 2 years from an election, we do not have a boundaries delimitation? In your view, given that we have even witnessed the politicians in the country urging the judiciary to expedite these cases, but is there good political goodwill to ensure that this happens?
I don't think we have political goodwill because actually by the time you end up in such a situation, it means you didn't involve all the parties in your constitution of IEBC. And therefore, remember, we have limitations. For example, we need to have a continuous voter registration, which is not going on. Number two, we also need to have voter education, continuous again, which again, the IEBC is still quiet because of that the constitution. And as my able panelists here have said, is that we are facing a crisis, and if we are not careful, we might do these things hurriedly, and at the end of the day, do not satisfy everybody. I thought there could be a way we can do a consensus. We mustn't wait for the Chief Justice to call us on the table, because also she could be having her plate full. Because remember, there are cases, there are historical cases that are still there. There are also other new applications, even as we are speaking right now. Perhaps there is one of the lawyers in the system filing another case. And remember, we also don't have enough magistrates and judges to determine all these cases at the same time. So I would call upon whoever has that case in court to seek consensus where they could sit down, dialogue, agree on the way forward, because we are all Kenyans. This is our country. No one person cannot hold the whole country at ransom, in as much as we want that person to get justice. But at the same time, that person cannot hold the entire country at ransom, because we need to register voters, we need to educate voters, we need to delimitate the boundaries, especially the wards, looking at the Constitution of Kenya, where it says when it reaches a certain number of voters or a certain population, the constituency or the ward has to be split. And there is also a constitutional timeline of every 8 years, if I'm not wrong, that the Constitution, now since 2010, we are even beyond the 8 years where we are supposed to have delimited the boundaries. And therefore, I'm looking at a situation whereby we'll do these things hurriedly, and then we start complaining. The same IEBC has to recruit also other officers. Perhaps there are those who have retired. There are those who have gone through natural attrition. Some have sought employment elsewhere. Remembering that at the constituency level, we have returning officers. We have those other officers at the level. There are also clerks that work in IEBC offices all around the country. And all these things have to be done within the next 2 years. And if this person has the interest of Kenyans at heart, in as much as there is sometimes you give a pass, you mustn't tackle everything. The way we used to say in football, German tackling. This is like one of the German tackling. Somebody was going to score, you cut them before they enter the D. So, and I think this is, we need to reason together as a country. The president has to bring all these people, whichever president, is it the president of LSK, is it the president of the Republic of Kenya, or any other, even the presidents of political parties, because there are political parties who have their party leaders as president. So we all have to sit down as a country, agree on the way forward. This country belongs to all of us. And we have a collective responsibility to ensure that our country moves forward. Just the way you saw Americans all in unison, that it doesn't matter who lost and who won. They are now all Americans and they are all together. The same thing happens to Kenyans, that we put the interest of Kenya first. Don't put the interest of your political party to come first. Think, because if I were to allow Waswa, for example, to steal the show, and he has an important thing to do, I would just allow him even a few of my minutes. So the same thing happens to Kenyans. We mustn't get away always. Sometimes the majority have their say, but the minority have their say, but the majority have their way. Yes.
And Waswa, given that that is the political problem. Now to the legal problem. We have seen a number of, in various years, we have witnessed most of the commissioners, if not, most of them are lawyers. So given that they see some of these legal loopholes that are within the commission, why not resolve it or come up with a legislation that at the end of the day, if there are no commissioners in place, I know it's quite a debate between the CEO and the chair, so that we don't witness what happened between Chebukati and Chiloba. But at the end of the day, those legal loopholes, what could be some of the suggestions that you could even front that could be used in that particular scenario?
Yes, you're right. Those are the issues that we are having as far as the legal platform is concerned. You know, the problem is the same politicians are calling lawyers in Parliament also have different interests. You will agree with me that some people thrive when there's confusion. So this confusion sometimes benefits a certain constituency. Yeah, like in this case. I will not shy off to say that whatever is happening is benefiting the government of the day. Yeah, because
how so?
Yeah, I'm heading there. Because in the event that there is this confusion, remember the constitution talks about August being the date for election. But will you force the IEBC to proceed for elections when it's not ready? What will happen? You cause a crisis, then you become a solution. Yeah, so which means the country will be forced to put in any commissioners to make sure that we comply with the timelines in courts. Yeah, so who will be put in there? The politicians. Who will do what? Who will protect the interests of the same lawyers talking about in Parliament? We've seen time that number that some of these politicians who are in the Parliament, you're calling them lawyers, they have not been loyal even to the cause. Yeah, we've seen some of them even trying to fight their colleagues. We've seen, like Peter Kaluma at some point, he was pushing a bill to make sure that all lawyers are able to disclose what? The advocate-client confidentiality, yeah, which is against our professionalism. Yeah, so these things happen not because they are lawyers and therefore we should look at them, yeah, for guidance, but once someone becomes a politician, gets in that August house, you know, they look at their interest. It's not about the public interest, the Kenyan interest. It's all about personal interest. How am I benefiting with this situation? Yeah. Now, in the event that I'm going to sort this problem, the quagmire I always have between the CEO and the chair. Yeah. In the event we sort it out, yeah, how will I be able to bargain? Yeah, I'm talking about the opposition now. How will I bargain my way into government? Yeah, so some of these things, you look at them, we might have the good brains in parliament. We have very good brains. Look at, I used to admire my former boss, James Orengo. He left there, another man I love so much, Otiende Amolo, senior counsel. Very serious brains. But why are these things being pushed? Why? It is just about being a politician. A typical politician looks at personal interest. So I think for the politicians in the House, the personal interest supersedes the national interest. So this can only be done now through the bar. We as lawyers now to push these bills and get someone who can now sponsor this bill in Parliament. The LSK have done it. I think we already have that bill in Parliament to solve the issue, the mess between the CEO and
sure.
yeah. But as you can see, it is slow because of what? Personal interest. So I think as Kenyans, we need to be sincere enough. Yeah, we need to be sincere enough. If at all we want to save or help this country, we need to put aside our personal interest so that we can allow our country to move on properly. Yeah.
And Mildred, as we wind down on this particular topic, we're talking also not just on the interest that Waswa is alluding to here. There are three constituencies, namely here, for example, Banisa, Magarini and Ugunja, who do not have legislators. There are other even wards who they don't have members of the county assembly. Either they were removed through the legal channel, or some of them unfortunately passed away. In terms of these people getting the same rights as the neighboring constituency, what will it even mean? Even after the election, these people, at the end of the day, they will get those legislators, but what have they missed for those period?
Thank you for that question. Particularly, I would say that as we speak now, they're already disadvantaged a lot because they don't have representation in the parliament and they don't have enough resources even coming to their end, because they're supposed to be getting representation, and everybody knows that what is happening in Ugunja is not something that is constitutionally right. Though at some point I feel like Kenya, there's a way we drag issues. Kenya, there's a way we put things to stand still just because of one or two people. Regardless of the people who voted for these people and who even voted for the president, they don't see them as voters. And my worry would be, tomorrow there'd be somebody else going back to Ugunja and the other counties who are looking for votes and also promising them things that was promised to them prior, but were never been delivered. What then again, something that is happening now happens again. So we find that these people, they are kind of put in a way that they're supposed to be worshipping or to do things blindly, which is not correct, because by the end of the day, we find that we are not fair by all means. And by the end of the day, we see that we are in the second year of the president, of the political party, and we see that we are going to the third year very fast. 2026 is here. Then we are going to be this is 2025, then 2027 we are going back to election. Then what happens to them? And again, it means that there are resources that are not getting to them. And again, we don't know what is happening down there, because we don't know any person who is representing this person as we speak, and whether the representation is up to task. So that one gives us a room of more doubts. And also as leaders, what are we doing, or what are we bringing back to the people of these counties that are not represented in the National Assembly? So this one also brings a lot of political disadvantage, because there are people now sidelining, coming in and saying how these people, you voted for the wrong person, vote me again, I'll be here and deliver this thing. If this would have happened, if you'd have voted me in, this would have been the case. But now we see that they don't have a choice. By the end of the day, they'll take somebody who has been giving them maybe hands to mouth, something benefits or something that they can't equate to what other counties are getting.
And we know what happened in Ugunja. It's the Opio Wadai, who was also the minority leader, was appointed now as a cabinet secretary. But what we can confirm is that Banisa, member of parliament, unfortunately lost his life 1.5 years ago. But Sammy, as we wind up, we're talking about going forward. What should we be seeing, aside from telling the judiciary to expedite those cases in future, so that we do not find ourselves here every single time? What should be done?
I think there should be a bill coming to Parliament to regulate this, so that if you have to challenge the formation of IEBC, you must be supported by a certain number of voters, registered voters, so that at least an individual should not stop the process. A bill should say at least, let's say, 200,000 registered voters and from all over the country, so that it makes it a little bit harder to stop a process that has started. I'm thinking also of a way of the political parties. Now we have, I've just kept saying, the broad-based government. Majority of the opposition leaders are now in government, except for Kalonzo and a few others. They should come together. I know these people are just like these animals, the carnivorous animals like lions, where they hunt together and they kill and they eat together. Otherwise, you might see a lion on the other side thinking that they are not, but it is just trying to bring the prey who are the voters together. So these people know what they are doing. And as Kenyans, we should encourage a situation whereby we solve disputes faster. We ensure that there are no legal stumbling blocks that would stop a process, especially when it has the national interest. And the president should come in strongly. The way he called the Council of Governors, he can also call these political leaders, political parties and their leaders together, and they discuss the way forward. And that will lead to a withdrawal of the case. Otherwise, we might have, because there is no constitutional timeline for that, we might have this case going up to 2029. Yes. Okay.
I think there's a problem here. We shouldn't allow whatever you said to go on air. You know what my brother is doing is planting a bad seed that we're trying to deal with. You know, his comment that in the event, his proposal that in the event someone needs to go to court, he needs to be supported by a number of voters. You know, that will be now suppressing the courts and suppressing the judiciary. And we can't sit here and allow him to say that, because at the moment, there are a lot of things going on where they're suppressing the judiciary. You know, every Kenyan has a right to go to court, whether they have a bad case or a good case. You don't have, you know, where Sammy is taking us, where Sammy is my very good friend. Where Sammy is taking us, he wants to take us to the Moi era, you know, where you must have some signatures for you to do something. This country, I think we come from that place.
Yes, we have a constitution.
We have a constitution. Yes, we have a constitution. Yeah. Maybe what I agree with Sammy only is maybe we should have a regulation where the same way we do it after elections. Timelines for filing suits. Timeline for filing suits, you can only file suits within 3 months or 2 months. Yeah, but I mean, the idea of getting back up, I think we disagree.
Let's finish that topic there, given that we have to move. It's already 31 minutes past the hour. Gentlemen and lady, of course, you heard what happened yesterday. The Control of Budget last week, that is, issued a circular directing that county governments, especially governors, they should not involve themselves in bursary allocation, given that that is a function of the national government. You heard it yesterday at Delta Corner, where the governors converged, of course, vehemently opposing what Dr. Margaret Nyakango was talking about. Let me start with you now. We're talking about, Mildred, we're talking about bursary allocation. In your view, as a legal advisor, who is supposed to oversee such initiative? Is it the national government or the county government?
Okay, according to me, it should be the county government. But you have to agree with me, like we have so many issues when it comes to the county government, because there's a lot of disparity, there's a lot of cries. Mostly when I look at the county government allocation of bursaries, it happens mostly women are the ones who follow up the bursaries. They're the ones who go after the bursaries. They're the ones who follow up for their queuing for their children and crying every day that the bursary is not allocated.
In your view, what about then the NGCDF that funds almost over 50% of its fund to bursary allocation? If you're for the county government, what happens to the national
Okay, I'm not
government
for the
to-
county government.
Okay.
I'm coming back to the national
Okay.
government.
Okay.
I would like it to be regulated so that the governor or the people at the county government don't look at their own people. There should be a level ground where everybody who deserves a bursary gets a bursary. Not that somebody who is capable of raising their fees, somebody who is capable of going to school comfortably without bursary is allocated more bursary. Then we find that these people who are very less fortunate, the orphans, the children of the widows, they are still there looking for bursary of which they never get. So such disparity, to tackle it, I would go for national government. Somebody who doesn't know Mildred, who doesn't know my children, but because of the application, they'll just see the need and say, let me allocate Mildred and her children, Mildred's children this amount, without knowing me. Yes.
Do we need a legislation, and who is supposed to be overseeing when it comes to bursary allocation?
I think I've said it time without number, that why are we handing over a lot of money to politicians to dish them out as if they are awarding their cronies? Why can't we make education free, all these bursaries to be collapsed and be taken to the Ministry of Education, make education free, and we go on. You know, this idea of handing over money to the NGCDF, you know, these MPs, I've seen most of them. Most of them are my friends. How they behave. You know, they just tell you when they pay list ya watu yako, they pay list ya watu yako, then they dish out. You know, just awarding. So for me, I think that we need a bill. We need a bill in Parliament so that we can collapse all these bursaries. Yeah, the governor's work is not to issue, is not dish out bursaries. Yeah, the work of bursaries should and remain onto the national government through the Ministry of Education. What is the work of the Ministry of Education then? Is it just regulation? No. Make sure everyone is at school. Bring in the county government, bring in the administration to make sure that every kid has gone to school. Yeah, there are chiefs. What are the work of the chiefs? Administration, DCs, DOs, get them. Yeah, make sure kids are at school. So this idea of who should get money, governor, MP, should just stop.
No, in terms of the finances, the governors remove it from their allocation.
Which should not be the case.
Yes.
Which should not be the case. What are they financing? What are they financing? You know, this idea, you know, this issue of giving them that leeway, that, you know, we can allocate you some money, you know, as a governor, you can decide how you want to pass your budget. You know, this thing should be controlled also by the control of budget. Yeah?
Which she has.
Yes, she has. And which I think I applaud her. I applaud the control of budget for doing that. And the same should now go through the bill through and attack these MPs. These MPs are using this money just for politics.
Okay.
Yeah. So I believe that what the control budget has done is very good. Now the next animal here are these MPs. Deal with them. Collapse all these
Don't call
bursaries.
people animals.
Yes.
They are human beings.
No. You know,
This is national television.
this is national television,
Yes.
but we must agree that this is the worst parliament this country has ever had.
Maybe.
They
Don't say
have
animals.
overseen abuse of human rights. They have overseen lack of focus. This is the worst parliament that this country has ever had.
Okay.
They do not even deserve that term honorable.
Okay.
Yeah, what
But
honorable?
retract those words of calling people an animal. This is a national television. Kids are watching here.
Retracted.
Yes, and thank you for apologizing
Thank
as
you,
well.
thank
Sami, moving on to, of course, giving us your thought, as well as in terms of coming up with proper legislation. You have heard from Waswa in terms of introducing some, he's advocating for issue taken back to the Ministry of Education. The Ministry of Education should be issuing these bursaries as opposed to the national government constituency development funds, as well as the governors.
Now, the bursary issue is an emotive issue, especially when it comes to politicians, because that is where they get a chance to seduce the voters and get a liking. But I'm looking at a situation whereby if all this is collapsed and made available as, education free, remember the university has a funding model, we remove them. The constitution is very clear on the education, who deals with what. The county governments have been given the ECDE level and the tertiary institutions, especially the polytechnics and the technical institutes within the county. Then the national government is dealing with primary schools and secondary schools. If you look at the current allocation, the way it is done, it is not fair at all. I remember a situation, I was looking at a list of a certain constituency where I come from. If you are from the Member of Parliament's community, you receive 15,000. Others receive 5,000 and 3,000. And you ask yourself why. If we want to assist, let's all be uniform. And I wish that the president takes this as a golden opportunity for him to do what Kibaki did, make education free. Because looking at the what goes to bursaries, especially through constituencies, that's around 7.2 billion yearly. If you look at the county government, they are at a rate of around 14 billion. 14 billion plus, that's around 21 billion added to the education fund that is there. It can easily help us make education free. This fund should go back to the Ministry of Education, and then the national government, through its organs, from the village elder all the way to the presidency, there is a way they coordinate and get to know who are the needy people in the village. I am sure my governor may not know the needy community, but my village elder, the needy family, but my village elder would be able to know. Remember, we had what we call Nyumba Kumi. Yes. I can just get 10 houses and I know which is a needy house. Otherwise, I can't give bursary for somebody who is, for example, working, has an income, and leave out somebody else who survives on kibaruas. So the national government should do that, and also even through schools, because the schools, school heads know the needy students. And at some point, even they have asked us in our WhatsApp groups that there is this needy student, has not been able to attend classes, we need to assist this, and we end up even contributing as parents. Therefore, the national government should take up its responsibility, but also constitutionally, not elbowing others from out. Because if you look at the moment, the member of county assembly has a bursary to give, a governor has a bursary to give, a women rep has bursary to give, member of parliament has bursary to give, governor has bursary to give, and at the end of the day, even the deputy president even are able to give bursaries in their own capacity. Collapse all this. These are channels where hemorrhage of government funds happens, and therefore we should be able to seal all this. And now that the government has our data, it knows how much circulate through my bank or my M-Pesa account or Airtel Money account. They know how much people are spending. And therefore, they should use even such machinery to come up with a way of distributing this bursary.
Okay. Yes. And now we want to display on the screen what the clerk of the National Assembly clearly stated in terms of collapsing all these bursaries into one kitty, so that at the end of the day, students can be able to, of course, benefit. If you can display it on the screen so that our viewers can see the quotes of the clerk himself, that the current uncoordinated approach towards the issuance of bursaries and scholarships from public funds by the Minister of Education, the National Government Constituency Development Fund. He goes on to say that aside from NGCDF, that the county government has in some instances led to the duplication of awarding of those scholarships, that they should be consolidated into one kitty. What Waswa was talking about earlier on in terms of ensuring that all students get a benefit from this particular kitty, given that you do know the crucial role that bursaries help indeed in terms of ensuring that all learners are on equal basis and they receive this particular vital commodity, which is a right in this particular country. Now, given that we have a little few moments, I want to shift our gears quickly to the United States of America. What we witnessed yesterday at Capitol Hill, of course, the ceremony was expected to be hosted outside as always, but due to the weather condition, it was hosted inside the Capitol Hill, where Donald Trump was sworn in for a historic second term as the president on Monday, of course, pledging that he will return America to its golden era. And of course, as an executive order, he signed almost 50 of them in this particular instance, as when he was sworn in terms of ensuring that the issuance of tariffs, as well as ensuring that America, at the end of the day, are secure in terms of aliens that have, or immigrants that are in that particular country. And then finally, of course, the controversial one that people are talking about, he clearly stated that the United States of America will only recognize two gender, that is male and female. Let's listen in to what the proceedings of Capitol Hill yesterday, and of course we'll continue with this